My fellow Americans, good evening. I'm Steve Kubby. Next week, President George W. Bush will deliver his State of the Union address to a joint session of Congress. This week, I'm delivering my State of the Union address to you, the American people. I'm not the President of the United States, but I'm asking you to elect me to that office. It's only proper, therefore, I should come before you to offer an assessment of our nation's situation and answers to the question, where do we go from here? I've chosen to speak with you before President Bush does because, like you, I have a pretty good idea what he's going to say. Like you, I know that in saying it, he's going to be putting lipstick on a pig. President Bush is going to tell you that the State of the Union is strong, but that it can use improvement. What he's not going to tell you is that we are more disunited than we've been in a generation or longer, and that he bears a large share of the blame for making that so. He's not going to tell you that the U.S. now imprisons a larger percentage of its own citizens than any other nation on earth, or that most of the prisoners are behind bars for activities that no civilized society would consider a crime in the first place. President Bush is going to tell you that the state of the American economy is strong and claim credit for that strength, citing his package of trivially small tax cuts as the cause. What he's not going to tell you is that his administration, with the full cooperation of Congress, has plundered the Treasury, driven up the national debt, driven down the value of the dollar to historic lows, depressing the purchasing power of the American consumer, and growing government faster than any administration or Congress since World War II, at your expense. President Bush is going to tell you that America's armed forces are winning the war in Iraq and that we must stay the course through to victory. What he's not going to tell you is that 4 years ago, about 500 American troops had died in that place, that number now exceeds 4,000. The U.S.-created government of Iraq is even now welcoming members of the very regime the U.S. invaded to depose back into its ranks. Nor is he going to tell you that his party's likely choice to succeed him in office, U.S. Senator John McCain, has projected that the U.S. might remain in Iraq for as long as 100 years. Or that none of the alleged opposition parties' likely nominees are willing to promise to bring the troops home during his or her term in office, or even through this war is now dragged on for longer than World War II. President Bush is going to tell you that Iran represents yet another military challenge for U.S. power, and that all options remain on the table for dealing with that threat. What he's not going to tell you is that neither the International Atomic Energy Agency nor our government's very own intelligence services agree with his claim that Iran is actively seeking to develop nuclear weapons. Nor is he going to tell you that enmity between Iran and the U.S. is and always has been almost entirely a function of U.S. intervention in the Middle East, including financing the bombing and murder campaigns of terror groups like the MEK within Iran's borders. President Bush will tell you none of these things because telling you those things might lead you to ask yourself, what the hell were you thinking when you consented to allow him, his party, and those who pretend to be his opponents to exercise power over yourself, your family, your friends, and your neighbors in the first place. I'm telling you these things because they're true. And because a little more than a year from now, I want you to look back fondly on this as the day when you decided to take back the power that Republicans and Democrats have usurped and the freedoms that they have seized. This time next year, I hope to report to you, as a sitting president, that America's unilateral and unconditional withdrawal from Iraq began the previous week, seconds after my inauguration, and that the withdrawal will be complete by April 2009. I expect that news to overshadow my further report that henceforth Iran will be treated as a potential trading partner rather than as a convenient punching bag. This time next year, I hope to report to you that I must cut my speech short so that I can get back to the work of signing pardons for all those ensnared in America's legal system over victimless crimes, and to the work dismantling the cancerous paramilitary bureaucracies which so ensnared them in the first place. This time next year, I hope to report to you that Congress has received my first legislative package, which will include my request for a repeal of the income tax and my non-negotiable demand for a balanced budget, one balanced downward by drastically reducing spending rather than upwards with tax hikes or through further debasement of our currency. Naturally, I will also happily report that your government once again treats torture, detention without charges, and warrantless wiretapping as the heinous crime rather than as the prerogatives of executive power. I hope to report all these things and a good many more. But first, there's an election in between now and then. It's up to you to decide that you want these things too, and that you are willing to support the only candidate and the only party offering them to you. Now, I am not yet the presidential nominee of the Libertarian Party, but I expect that I shall be, or that my party shall nominate someone who will offer, and if elected, deliver these same things. I am running for president. Other libertarians are seeking election to Congress and other offices on these same promises. We can and will deliver on those promises if you give us the opportunity. In November, vote Libertarian, and between now and an election day, arm yourself with the information you need to carry the day for freedom. Call 1-800-ELECT-US for more information on how to take your country back. Thank you, and let freedom grow.